Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post it to Facebook. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. If you feel you need a therapist, please go to Google, type in therapy, your city, and then Psychology Today will pop up. Click on that. It will have qualified therapists in your area. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other damn therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. Yes, I have got laryngitis, so I am going to try to go as long as I possibly can. So, okay, let's see. What do I need to talk about? So, we got some upcoming events. If you are interested in attending any of the live events, go to Eventbrite. So you're going to type in Mercury or Chris Godinez Eventbrite, and then my stuff should pop up. So Mercury Eventbrite, and which is spelled M-U-R-C-U-R-I, Eventbrite, and it'll pop up my manager's page, and it will have all of the live events coming up. February 22nd, I'm going to be in Honolulu, which is the Kona Coffee Purveyors, which is going to be at the Ala Moana Mall. March 21st is Washington, D.C. at a baked joint. April 18th is going to be in Westchester, New York, which apparently is like a county. I didn't know that. So I'm going to let my manager figure out where we're doing that one because I have no idea. April 18th also is going to be in New York City, and that's at a private residence. And then May 7th through the 11th is the cruise. So on the cruise, I'm going to have Jess Manny, who is my personal trainer, and I'm going to have Susanna Quintana. She is going to be there as well, and I am going to be there. And I'm still trying to get another guest speaker or two because I want as many people as possible to come and talk and educate and, you know, all that sort of fun stuff and hang out because I think that's important. So, all right. Houston, I'm not sure that Houston is still on. If I only have one person, I can't afford to just fly out for one person. So do check to see if it's still on the calendar. If it's not, then that means it's been canceled. If it has been canceled, guys, I'm willing to do like an hour-long just hi meet and greet over Skype. That I can do if it gets canceled. So, all right, there's 2 people so far. Okay, so we'll see how it is by the end of the week. If we get more than that, then I can fly out. Then it makes sense. So. All right, where am I, dear Lord? Also, so people don't quite understand the difference between a counselor and a life coach. And I wanted to make this really clear because I get this question a lot. People are like, well, why can't you just coach me? Why can't you just coach me? Why can't you just set aside your LPC and coach me? According to the state laws, I have to, wow, one flying in from Atlanta. Okay, I guess I'm going to Houston. So... Hello, Houston. So where was I? According to the state laws, I have to abide by the higher licensure, and my licensure is LPC, licensed professional counselor. So because of the master's, because of the LPC, I have to abide by that. I cannot just counsel people. I cannot just coach people, but I will tell you who can. That would be Susanna Quintana, SUZANNA. QUITANA.com, SusannaQuintana.com. She can, because she is a life coach, she can coach. She can go across state lines. She can go across international lines. She's awesome, and I love her. So do look her up. She also offers free consultation. So yeah. Okay, so there is that. Another person I really like is Sarah Picaro. So Sarah Picaro does the rapid transformational therapy. She too is a life coach. So you could give either one of those ladies a call. Susanna Quintana, though, she's your girl. She's been there. She's done that. She's divorced a narcissist. She's got kids from a narcissist. It's, you know, there it is. So there is that. Also, if you are interested in purchasing anything, having this logo on it, go to the Mercury.com/shop site. That is also where you can get information on the cruise. So there is that. So today I wanted to talk about, hold on a second. I'm sending yes, there we go. I wanted to talk about the changing roles in the family. So for example, when I say changing roles in the family, there's a lot of things that happen when somebody leaves abuse. Okay. If you are leaving familial abuse, family, mom, dad, grandparents, whatever, you are the targeted scapegoat and you decide to step out of that situation, everything is going to get wonky donkey. And I also want to talk about when the narcissist dies, it's gonna get weird, like really weird, like mind-blowingly weird. So I want to talk about that too. So first I want to talk about when the scapegoat finally figures it out and goes, nope, I'm done. I'm done. I am out of here. Peace out. Goodbye. So when a scapegoat does that, remember, narcissists are very rigid in their thinking. They're not fluid. It's like stuff happens and a normal person is able to go, "Oh, okay, plot twist, whoops, going this way now. Okay. Or gee, the surf is coming in this way. I guess we're going this way now. You just kind of ride the waves and you go when you're healthy, right? When you're a narcissist, your thinking is like this wide. It's like there's no varying left or right or up or down or anything else. It's like, no, you must go in this direction and that is it. So when a scapegoat does the whole awakening, right? And they're like, I am tired of being treated like shit. I am tired of being the one that's always wrong. I am tired of them making me the bad guy and everything is my fault and this, that, and the other thing. And they finally go, done, and they leave. That throws the family of origin into total chaos, which is kind of fun to sit back and watch and pop some popcorn, but you stay the hell out of it. So what happens is all of the flying monkeys lose their mind and the narcissist loses their mind because they are desperate to control. They want you back in the fold so that the status quo is there and they don't have to think and they don't have to change and they don't have to switch roles, because what ends up happening is when the scapegoat leaves, the narcissist has to find another bad guy, has to find another scapegoat. So the golden child sure as hell doesn't want you to leave, and the comic sure as hell doesn't want you to leave, and the ignored middle child doesn't want you to leave. Why? Because one of them is going to be it. Tag, they're it. Now they're the scapegoat. And that is what happens in these dysfunctional families. In a healthy, normal family, you don't have roles. The kids are just kids, right? They're doing whatever they're doing. They got their strengths, they got their weaknesses. You play to their strengths. That's what a healthy family does. And a healthy family rejoices in a child becoming independent. And I want to talk about that next week. So next week, I'm going to be discussing learned helplessness, because I want to talk about all the ways they sabotage us and how it comes back when we leave that relationship and we have not worked on ourselves. So next week is going to be learned helplessness. Also, I'm a little chatty today because I've had 2 of these coffee. Oh, anyway, okay. So when we leave, it forces everybody else to scramble to not be it. So they do their weirdness, and what they do is they enlist the flying monkeys. Dun, 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 dun. And so people that you have not heard from in years will suddenly come out of the woodwork and they'll start guilt tripping you. And they'll do the whole, well, but it's your mother. Well, but it's your father. And oh, the Holy Bible says, honor thy mother and father. And the very next line is, parents, do not bring your children to anger. Don't get me started. Anyway, the Bible's a two-way street, people. Sorry. Anyway, so that's what they do. And they try to guilt, fear, obligation, guilt. They try to put you back in the fog so that you come back with your tail between your legs so that the abuse can continue and the status quo stays. Massively messed up, massively dysfunctional. Do not do it. Do not go back. Once you've left and you recognize that a parent is abusing or abusive, or a sibling is abusing or abusive, stay out. Get out. You are under no obligation to heal these people. Because let me clue you into something. They don't want to be healed. They have no desire to be healed. They like the chaos. That's just the way it is. So they're all scrambling to try not to be it. You will suddenly have all of these flying monkeys, like Aunt Bertha, you haven't heard from in 20 years, will suddenly call you up and go, well, your mother's not doing well. Or, oh, your father's not taking care of him. I'm sorry, are these people adults? Do they have other children? Yes, they do. Why is it the scapegoat's responsibility to take care of somebody who's been abusing them for years? It's not. So the question I always have people ask themselves, and I cannot tell you how many times this week in counseling I had to ask this question. If you were not related to any of these bozos, would you have anything to do with them? If the answer, and it's usually an immediate hell no, there's your answer. Do not. And if you're still feeling guilty, you need to work on the guilt and go low to no contact. You have a right to not be abused. Let me just say that again. You have a right to not be abused. You do. Just because they happen to be sperm donors or egg donors does not give them the right to put you down, call you names, treat you like dirt, make you the scapegoat. It's your fault for everything. I can't retire because of you. You've drained all my money. I could have gone to Rabal, blah, 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 fucking blah. You see where I'm going with that? You don't need to put up with that shit. You don't. Now, is society and the flying monkeys especially going to jump on that whole honor thy mother and father thing? Yes. The very next line, like I said, parents, do not bring your children to anger. God does not want us to be abused. I don't believe, I'm a Buddhist, but I was raised Southern Baptist. I don't believe for 1 second that a higher power wants us to be abused. I'm sorry, I've traveled the world. It is a gorgeous, amazing place. Why would a supreme being give us a gorgeous, amazing place and then say, no, but I want you to put up with bullshit? Doesn't make sense. Cognitive dissonance. Here we go. So, okay, so there that is. So when a narcissist dies, let's talk about that. Narcissists very rarely kill themselves, but it does happen. And here's when it happens. If the narcissist was a physical abuser, as well as being verbal, if they were a physical abuser and they depended on using physical intimidation, to manipulate, control, harass, abuse, etc., and they used physical punishment, when they get old and the universe grants them their just desserts and they get some sort of issue that prevents them from abusing physically, that is when I have seen them commit suicide. So it is basically for them, they're out of control. They cannot control anymore. I mean, yes, they can verbally abuse, but let's say in that situation, the scapegoat has left. The scapegoat has said, nope, I'm not putting up with this. I'm not going to deal with you. The other siblings can deal with you or whatever. I'm not doing it. So the narcissist knows that they cannot manipulate strangers, usually. So they know that if they're going to go into a home of some sort, like a care facility, they know that the nursing staff doesn't give a flying rat's ass. They're not going to be hooked by the guilt. They're not going to be hooked by the intimidation. They're not going to be hooked by the fear or the obligation because there's no relationship there. Because the nurses are just doing their job, because the aides are just doing their jobs. This person is a patient and I don't have to put up with your shit. That's basically what it is. And they know that they can no longer intimidate, manipulate, control, harm, hurt, abuse without consequence. Because when they get into those nursing homes, remember I talked about this before, there was this one woman that was in my mom's nursing home and she was a holy terror. Nobody liked her. Nobody. The staff didn't like her. The other clients didn't like her. She eventually was asked to leave. Her family was told, nope, we're not putting up with her. She's abusive. And she was. She would spit at people and she was not crazy either. Not what I mean is she was crazy, but she was not Alzheimer's. She was just a mean motherfucker. Okay. And so it got to the point, and she actually even said it at one point. She was like, you need to do what I say. She said this to one of the aides, and the aide was like, no, I don't, And that's when she started spitting at her. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, so the point being is the narcissist knows that when they get into that situation, they're now out of control. And what is a dark triad? It is psychopath, okay? Because only crazy people think they can treat people like that and get away with it. That's insane. Narcissist, it's all about them. Machiavellian, which is the control freak. They are all about control. And when they lose that, that's when suicide becomes an option for them. When they realize that they no longer can physically intimidate, can mentally intimidate, can verbally intimidate, can emotionally intimidate, that's when suicide is their final option. And they use it in that case as a hit and run final fuck you. It is. It's a hit and run final fuck you to the entire family, and especially to the kids who figured it the fuck out and said, nope, no more. No more. Now, normally in a different situation, if the abuser was not quite that dark of a triad, if they were down at the malignant end, but not, all the way down there, they will commit suicide passively. So, for example, my dad, God bless his heart, and I do mean that in the Southern way, he had the flu and he went into the hospital, and the aides told him, they're like, do not get up out of bed and go use the bathroom without one of us coming in to help you. So what does he do? He takes off all the monitors, walks over to the bathroom, sits down on the toilet, and immediately has a heart attack and dies. Passive suicide, if you want my personal opinion. When you go AMA, against medical advice, that is passively committing suicide. Or the other thing that I've seen them do is they're on meds, right? And they decide, well, I know better than the doctors, so I'm going to dose myself, and then they end up overdosing. Or they just go off all their meds, which, as you know, if you're on any sort of psych med, there's always like withdrawals, and there's a possibility of seizures, etc., depending on what the medication is. So you never just cold turkey stop a medication. That's suicide, literally. It is suicide. So passively, they will commit suicide. And then sometimes the ones who are the really physically abusive, that's always been the way they've controlled and manipulated, they will actively commit suicide. And leave a note, not leave a note. Basically, their action says it all. And it's usually intended to inflict guilt and pain in the surviving children. So basically, they want to control from the grave, and they want to harm from the grave. If they can't manipulate you physically anymore, if they cannot intimidate you emotionally anymore, if they are going to be at the mercy of someone they cannot manipulate or control, meaning a nursing home, they will go ahead and commit suicide. That's when I've seen it happen. So one of the questions that I got was, what happens when that happens? Well, will the aunts and the uncles finally wake up and realize that this person was, toxic beyond belief? And will they suddenly come to? Beautiful dreamer. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. So generally what happens when that happens is that everybody freaks out. So there's the initial, death is weird, guys. Death is just weird. And it's even weirder when you've got complicated feelings for the abuser. When the abuser is a parent, it's so funny. In working with little kids, I often hear, people that are not in the mental health industry go, I don't understand. Their parent was abusive. Why do they still love them? Because it's their parent. Hate to break it to you. It's still their parent. So our inner child comes into play when our abuser dies and we're adults. And if we don't have that stuff handled and nailed down, oh, my sweet baby Jesus, it's not going to be pretty. We're going to be acting out like crazy. So, and not only are we going to be acting out, but everybody else in the family is going to be doing their own inner child weirdness. So that's why I'm saying it's really important to get stuff nailed down now before the abuser either offs themselves intentionally or unintentionally, or they die of natural causes or whatever. When I went into therapy, it was when I was in 14 years old, I think. And the reason I wanted to go into therapy is because I knew he was going to die. I knew at some point this parent that was abusive was going to die, and I did not want to be left with guilt and fear and obligation and hating myself and all sorts of shit that he shoved into my space. Thank God I had an older sister to guide me, okay? So it's important that we nail down the feelings that we're going to feel while our abuser is still alive when they die. Wow, that was really confusing. So when they die, we need to be okay, basically, is what I'm saying. So somebody asked, okay, is the family going to figure it out and come together? No, they're not. They're not. So everybody's going to be freaking out. So death has got a lot of weird things that go along with it. There's going to be relief. That is, oh, Lord. The conversations I had with my mom on the couch, holy cow. We were sitting there and she was crying and she felt guilty. And she's like, Chris, I feel so guilty. And I said, why? And she's like, because I feel relieved. And I'm like, join the rest of the family. It's like, we're all like, I'm glad he's dead. He was an asshole. He made life miserable. He was a dick. I'm sorry. He was. And she was like, I know, but, and I'm like, And that's when we started really working on her self-esteem and all of that stuff. But it's like, yeah, you're going to feel relief and you're going to feel guilty about it. And don't. I'm sorry. It's just, there was a meme that I love that says, if you'd wanted me to write nice things about you, you probably should have acted better. Same thing when they're dead. If you want me to say nice things about you, you probably should have acted better. So do not feel guilty for their death. The saddest thing about my dad's death, and I think this is true of everyone that was raised by an abuser, is that it wasn't so much that we were sad he was dead. Actually, we were all glad. We were all like, whew, thank God I don't have to deal with that anymore. But the saddest thing for all of us was it could have been so good. He had a great family. I have great siblings. I do. Some of them are a little more fucked up than others, but it's like, look, all of these people could have been a great family. We could have had amazing family vacations. We could have done so much together. And instead, he divided and conquered. And I didn't get to know my sister until I was 54 years old. What the fuck? Do you see where I'm going with that? So it's a lot of what ifs. If only, if only, if only, if only, if only he had gotten help. If only he could have put his ego aside. If only he had empathy. If only, if only, if only. But then you have to deal with the reality of it. He or she didn't. He or she couldn't. He or she wouldn't. So there it is. There is reality acceptance. It's wow. And that's the sad part, because then a lot of us look back and we go, wow, all those wasted years. Well, yeah, for shizzle. I think a lot about that with my sister Nancy. I do, because she and I are so fucking similar. It's not even funny. We like the same kind of dogs. We like the beach. We like, and I'm sad that we were denied all of those years together. But you know what? I'm glad as hell that I met her now, because I can help her work through the asshole that was our father. You know what I'm saying? Things happen for a reason. I have to just go with that. So anyway, the point being is that you're going to have a lot of emotions and you're going to have relief. You're going to feel relieved when they die, because now you don't have to deal with them. But what's going to happen is everybody else is going to be dealing with their inner child stuff. And if there are siblings of the abuser, you can bet, if they haven't worked on their stuff, you can bet that all of their inner child stuff is going to come to the surface. It's not going to be pretty. And the funeral is going to be weird, and the following months are going to be weird, and people are going to be jockeying for positions. So one of the things that I have seen happen is when the abuser dies, everybody gets really weird. And especially if there was communal narcissism going on, so like they were using a lot of religion, that's going to be used against the scapegoat. That's going to be used against anybody who's not towing the line. And what I've seen happen is that all of a sudden somebody becomes the abuser. Weird, really, really weird. Because you would think that you would take a look at that and go, wow, that person was a miserable son of a bitch or daughter of a bitch or whatever, and I want to not be anything like them. But what ends up happening is because there's so much weirdness, so much guilt, so much fear, so much obligation, somebody takes on their fleas and they become them in an effort to keep them alive and work out whatever weirdness was going on with them. It's the weirdest damn thing I've ever seen. And it happens all the time. So no, you cannot count on the aunts and the uncles to suddenly go, oh, I should have had a V8. This was messed up. I don't want this. Let's be a family. Let's be good. There's going to be weirdness, because if they have not dealt with their inner child stuff from their childhood, from that particular family, it's going to get weird. So, okay. So what will happen is somebody will take over that role. Now, it may not be the aunts and the uncles. It may be one of your siblings. So suddenly the sibling will start doing the same things that the abusing parent did. It happens. It happened in my family, which caused another rift, but there it is. So, you just got to be aware that this stuff is, death does not mean it's the end. Oh my God, it sounds like a line from The Mummy. Anyway, no, it's true, because it's like, if the family is dysfunctional, like really dysfunctional, like never gotten help, never worked on themselves, never dealt with the inner child, never dealt with the original abuse, never worked on the original wound, none of that, and the abuser dies, it's going to be, somebody's going to start acting out. They're going to start acting out, and they're going to start acting out in weird ways. And one of the things that I've seen happen is, because narcissists are so emotionally disconnected, material things are everything to them. So I've talked about this before, how they use the will to kind of hold that over everybody's head, right? And they'll promise the moon and the stars and the sun to the golden child, and they'll promise the moon and the stars and the sun to whoever is kowtowing to them at that time. Trust me, they will write more wills than Howard Hughes. Trust me. You'll find 10 or 15 wills, and you'll have to figure out which one is the most recent. And then the aunts, the uncles, the siblings, etc., who are still in the system and still believing that material things actually mean something, will start fighting over whatever's left. It is a cluster fuck. It's horrible. I've seen it multiple times. It's insane. So my advice is honestly, you really have to think about, is it worth your mental health? Because honestly, I honestly don't think there's any amount of money, even if it was millions of dollars. I'm sorry, having to be in a 20-year court battle with a bunch of bozos is not my idea of a good time. So, you have to decide what is going to be important to you. Do you really want to fight for this little amount of money? Or do you want to just go have fun right when you get work? Let me pop the popcorn. I'm going to watch from over here. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth your mental health. And that's something that Nancy and I were talking about. Dad cut her out of the will. I didn't know that. He completely and totally cut her out. She got nothing. Zip, zero, zilch, nada. Good God, are we almost there? Yes. Questions in about 5 minutes. Okay. So that made me very angry because it was based on whether or not we were stroking his ego or not. Not because, he gave birth to us, he was a sperm donor, it just, and I told her, I said, girl, you didn't miss anything, because I'll tell you what, the years I spent on a couch trying to untangle all the bullshit he shoved in my head because of all that, I'm going to cut you out, you're a terrible daughter, blah, 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 blah. Not worth it. You are so lucky that you were away from him and you did not have to deal with it. Now, she had to deal with her own mom, but, who was a little, but, I told her, I said, you were smart. You were smart. Stay the hell out of it. I'm so glad that we're, talking now. So, okay, where was I? Okay, so in some cases, if it is worth it, if you decide that, yes, this is worth it, I don't want Aunt Bertha to get her hands on the grand piano or whatever, hire an attorney, let them deal with it. Do not engage, and keep everything in writing, because you're going to have to. And realize that the siblings that are left, whether they're the siblings of the abuser or whether it's your own siblings, their roles are going to change. They're going to try to make you back into the scapegoat again. They're going to try to suck you back into the drama, and they'll use the will to do that. They'll use the trust. They'll use the, whatever is going on. Hold on just a second. I'm going to have to blow my nose. I'm so sorry. Yay. Anyway, so they will use the will or the trust to try to suck you back into the drama. Don't fall for it. Hire an attorney, let them deal with it. Seriously. And everybody's like, oh, but I can't afford an attorney. And I'm like, you cannot not afford an attorney. Trust me on this one. You want the attorney to deal with it because you don't want to have to deal with the bullshit. So the roles do change, not for the better. So don't expect that. If everybody's in therapy, if everybody is working on themselves, then yes, things do get better. But if they're not, be prepared. It is going to be a cluster of the fuck. Seriously. And be willing to walk away, because you're worth peace. Your peace of mind is not worth fighting with these idiots. It's not, and if you do decide to fight with these idiots, hire an attorney and let them deal with the idiots, because you don't need to deal with it. It's just like when you're going through a divorce, let somebody else deal with the crazy emails, because they will drag stuff up from 40 years ago. I saw it happen. It was insane. So yeah, you got to decide what's worth it and what's not. So yes, the roles do change, but not for the better. It's generally somebody becomes the abuser. Somebody takes on the traits of the abuser, and then the flying monkeys rally around the new king or queen of abuse. So be prepared. That's basically what I am saying. Okay. I am ready for questions, because I'm not sure how long my voice is going to last. So let's get to it. If you have questions, just make sure you put question and then write out your questions so we can figure out what the questions are. Okay, so how do you know if you're doing the right thing by keeping your child away from very obvious toxic in-laws? I'm constantly being told by them I'm hurting my son. Well, of course the abuser is going to tell you that. If they are toxic, you are doing the right thing. You are. Okay, think of it this way. If they are abusive and they are toxic to you, what makes you think that they are not going to use that child as a pawn to hurt you? What the grandparents will do is that they will take that kid and have their time with them. And the whole time they're with the kid, they're bad-mouthing you. Then the kid comes home, and now you got to undo all of that craziness that they just shoved in their space. So you trust your gut. Don't ask your head. Don't ask your heart. And sure as hell, don't listen to an abuser. What does your gut tell you? Yes or no? Should you keep this kid away from them? If the answer is yes, act on it. I can guarantee you the answer is not going to be no if they're obviously toxic. Does that make sense? And don't feel guilty. Any relationship, guys, any relationship that has fear, obligation, or guilt, you should feel guilty because you're keeping my grandson away from me. Well, you should act like a better human being, motherfucker. Sorry. Do you see where I'm going with that? Any relationship that has fear, obligation, or guilt is a toxic, unhealthy relationship. And if it's toxic to you, it's gonna be toxic to your kids. Why would you subject them to that? You're doing the right thing. There we go. Boom. Hope that answered the question. All right, question. Whoa, where is my cursor? Good Lord. Okay, hold on. Okay. My husband was the golden child, but now he has set boundaries and his mother is terrible now, of course. It's so weird how she's acting. Can siblings get cast in different roles? Yes. So in my family, what would happen is whoever made my dad look good was the golden child, and it would switch. So one time it was my oldest sister, and then one time it was my middle sister, and then one time it was me for a very brief amount of time. I was usually the black sheep. Well, actually, the middle sister was more the black sheep, but I never put up with the shit either. So anyway, and it switches. It switches depending on who is stroking their ego at the moment. Who is, when a narcissist says jump, they expect you to ask how high. And if you don't do that, well, you're a problem. You're this, you're that, you're rebelling. You're a ungrateful child. That was my father's favorite thing. He loved King Lear. I hate King Lear. It's a stupid play. I love Shakespeare, but King Lear pissed me off. Anyway, the point being is in King Lear, he would say, oh, how sharp is the serpent's tooth is that of an ungrateful child. And he was talking about the youngest child who was actually the only one who was looking out for his best interest, whereas the other two were all greedy bitches. I'm just like, you stupid fucking narcissist. I knew it even back then in high school. Jesus Christ. So the point being is, oh my God, I need to stop drinking coffee. The point being is that yes, the roles switch depending on what suits the narcissist's ego at that particular moment in time. So when the golden child stops playing and draws boundaries, you bet your sweet bippy they don't like it when you do that. And you're now the problem, and you are now the scapegoat, and you are now this, and you are now that. So yeah, they absolutely do that because it's depending on who is stroking their ego at that particular moment in time, who is obeying them without question. That's what they want. Control freaks. Remember that. Machiavellian, that little triangle. So yeah, you can absolutely be cast in different roles, and it can switch on a dime. I mean, it's like, seriously, it was so weird to watch, and we were onto it eventually, but when you're not expecting it, yeah, it can send your head for a spin. All right. When a narcissist says they are praying for your finances, what, they don't think they're God? And spiritual well-being, is this a veiled threat? Yes. They don't wish anybody well. They don't. And it's basically a very covert screw you. It is. Because what they want is bad things to happen. Hold on just a second. I want to talk about that. Okay. That's kind of a backhanded compliment kind of thing. Oh, I'm praying for your finances and your well-being. Meaning that they think you're not doing well. It's like, I'm sorry. If I'm doing well, why are you praying for my finances and my well-being? And usually, even the communal ones, even though they claim to be like this with God, they're more like, this with God. And they wouldn't understand really wishing somebody well if their life depended upon it. And usually what that means is they want you to fail. So if they're focusing in on your financial and your well-being, yeah, I would say that's a veiled threat. Absolutely. They don't want you to do well. They don't. They really, really don't. And I want to talk more about that next week when I talk about learned helplessness, because they do not wish us well. They do not really want us to do better than them. Oh my God, if we do better than them, on one hand, their ego is kind of like, oh, look, I did this. Look, I'm going to take credit for what you've done. But on the other hand, their ego is like, How dare you? How dare you do better than me? So yeah, I would be very cautious with your finances and your spiritual well-being. So depending on what your spiritual belief is, you may want to give a good prayer to shout out to Saint Michael, you know, to protect you from evil. So, and or if you are into saging, I would sage. So yeah, basically whatever your spiritual belief is, pray for protection. So, all right, what do you recommend I do to deal with a family who relentlessly tries to fix the issues between you and a narcissist? You go no contact. You absolutely go no contact. Look, here's the deal. There are two types of flying monkeys, okay? One is just the uneducated. They don't know. They are ignorant. They literally truly cannot wrap their mind around the fact that there are evil people out there walking amongst us, kind of like that movie Them. He puts on the sunglasses and he sees all the aliens. You know, they're out there and they can't, because they don't think that way. They can't imagine somebody being that abusive or that evil or that intentional or that mean or that conniving or, you know, cunning and all of that stuff. So it's really hard for them to wrap their heads around. If you can educate them and, you know, and be like, look, read Object of My Affection is in My Reflection, Coping with a Narcissist by Raquel Lerner. This is what I'm dealing with. And they read it and they go, holy shit, I had no idea. Now I understand. Great. You can keep them around. If, however, it is the other kind of flying monkey, the other kind of flying monkey is a minor narcissist. So they may not be completely malignant, but they're getting there. Okay. They're pretty darn close. And they orbit around the major narcissist, the absolute malignant narcissist, because they like the drama, they like the power, they like the chaos, they like the, you know, the whole thing, and they love stirring up trouble. So what you're going to have to do with these people is you tell them, thank you, but no. And this is final, and this is a boundary, and here's the books I encourage you to read. And this subject will not be brought up again, period. And if it is, you and I are done, period. They're not going to like it. Oh, well, it's your life. You don't have to put up with this. So you just draw good boundaries. You educate the ones you can. And if you can keep them, great. And if you can't, peace out. Yep. Absolutely. And they do that a lot. And it's usually minor narcissists. It's usually because once somebody says no, it's usually respected in a healthy family. Here's another book for you to read, The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. You don't have to please these people. You don't even have to be nice to them. You can say no very sternly, you know, not mean, but, you know, no, and I mean it. No, and this subject is not being brought up again. No, this is an off limit topic. Thank you for playing. Bye-bye. And if you don't agree with it or don't like it and you bring it up again, I'm going to vote you off the island. That's all there is to it. So you stick with the no. No is okay. It's okay to say no, but I guarantee in families where it's dysfunctional and narcissistic and, you know, malignant and all of this sort of stuff, no has always gotten us punished. And yes, they will try to punish you. And yes, the narcissist will try to punish you. And that's when you go no contact. Be done. It's not your job to explain to these people why you don't want a relationship with an abuser. If you feel so inclined, refer them to the book or refer them to my videos. Let me take the heat for it. I don't really care. So there we go. You know, it's like, great, you're going to leave me a nasty thing on YouTube. Okay, delete. Bye. Have a nice day. And by have a nice day, I mean go fuck yourself. Here we go. All right. So next question. I feel like no matter how rude the toxic person is to me, I can brush it off. Is it normal for a victim of abuse to not see anything as shocking? Yes. Oh, God. Yes. We've been desensitized. We have been desensitized. We have been harmed so many times that we just don't even recognize it for the abuse that it is. So let me give you a great example. I can't tell you the number of clients I've had come and sit on my couch and describe their childhood. And it sounds, and I'm not kidding you, just exactly like Mommy Dearest. Like, seriously, like down to the trashing the room and then demanding they clean it up kind of thing. And I'm sitting here going, holy shit, what the, this is, wow. You know, I mean, thankfully my parents never did that, but apparently some abusers do. So, yeah, we quickly minimize. And the clients would minimize it, and I looked at them and I said, have you ever seen the movie Mommy Dearest? Have you ever read the book? Oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, it wasn't to that level. It was, you just described a scene from Mommy Dearest. It was to that level. So denial is dangerous. Denial is what gets us killed. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Denial is what gets victims, targets, I don't like the word victim, but targets of abuse killed. Because I will have clients come in with black eyes, broken noses, broken arms, etc. And they will go, oh, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, they are going to kill you. The next step is he's going to kill you or she's going to kill you. Trust me, there are female abusers out there too, guys. So they are going to kill you, okay? Denial is deadly. Denial is deadly. Denial will get you killed. Because here's the deal. Narcissists do not want us to be happy and they do not want us to live. If you have not noticed, they are doing everything they can to kill us, either emotionally and in some cases, physically. So when you are in denial about how toxic a person is, you are flirting with death. You are flirting with harm. You are flirting with abuse. Don't do it. Don't be minimizing. Minimizing is going to kill you. Denial is going to kill you. You must recognize the abuse for what it is. It is harmful. This person is toxic. Normal people don't act that way. Normal people are not snarky or mean or cruel or vicious or hit you or throw things down on the ground or throw things at you or, whatever. That is not normal. None of that is normal, guys. None of that is normal. And that is dangerous. So I strongly recommend, please, for your sake, get into a good trauma therapist. You need to start acknowledging how bad it really is. You need to start acknowledging that this is not normal and this is not okay. As a child of God, it is not okay for you to be treated like that. It is absolutely not. Not okay. And it is dangerous. So please get into a good trauma therapist and start working on getting rid of the minimizing and really acknowledging this is hurtful, this is toxic, this is dangerous. Absolutely. Because it doesn't get better with age, guys. They get worse. If they can, and especially with physical abusers, they get worse. They got away with breaking your nose. Next, they're going to break your arm. Next, they're going to break your leg. Next, they're going to kill the dog. Next, they're going to, they don't stop. They are evil. Okay. I cannot stress this enough. And if it's verbal abuse, it too does not get better. They just keep, oh, will you let me do that? Great. I'm going to do this next. And they just keep crossing boundary after boundary after boundary after boundary after boundary. And it will soul kill you. I'm not kidding you. It will soul kill you. It's dangerous. Get to a good trauma therapist. Don't put up with it. Get out. You need to get back to being shocked at bad behavior. You do. I mean, here's the thing. I've been doing this for, good Lord, 2006 is when I got my LAC. So 2006, 2007 is when I got my LAC. 2009 is when I got my LPC. I have literally seen it all. I'm still shocked and I'm still outraged and I'm still pissed. And thank God, because that's what keeps me safe. If I didn't get shocked and outraged and amazed at toxicity, I would have a bunch of toxic people in my life. I don't, because I don't put up with it, because I do get shocked. So it is a superpower. Being shocked is a superpower. Being empathic is a superpower. It is what separates us from the abuser, because the abuser does not have empathy and they are not shocked by anything because they're cruel, mean, vicious, dangerous. Fill in the blank. Do you see where I'm going with that? So, okay. Yeah. Please get to a good therapist and start working on not denying. Denial is dangerous and it will kill you. It will either soul kill you or it will kill you physically, because we just keep ignoring. It's like, oh, I don't see the pink elephant taking a shit in the corner of the living room. Nope, not there. Don't see it. Nope, don't see the pink elephant. Nope, it's not there. Well, eventually the pink elephant is going to keep shitting so much that it's going to smother you emotionally or physically. So yeah, please go get help. Okay, are there any more questions? Because I can't seem to find another question on there. If there is no other questions, then I am going to cut this short. Oh, no, wait, nope, we got another question. How do you handle, tons of questions. Yay! I like tons of questions. That makes me happy. How do you handle the cuckoo bird parent? The mother Gothel from Disney's Tangled. Oh, yeah. Grandmother who feels entitled to the children because she doesn't understand the concept of boundaries. You just have to enforce them. And you have to be a broken record. You have to be like, no, and I mean it. No, and I mean it. No, and I mean it. And then you enforce it. And they're not going to like it. And they will try to punish you. And they will do the guilt tripping. Oh, you never let me fill in the blank. And it's like, yeah, because that's my rules. My rules, my child. Thank you. Remember, they are control freaks and they want to control, and they don't even want you to have control over your own child. So you're going to have to come up with boundaries, a list of deal breakers, and read The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. You can say no and mean it, and it is okay, and they won't like it. And so what? Too bad. Too bad. It's your child, your rules. There you go. All right. How do you deal with a toxic, mistrusting mom who is getting dementia? Oh, God. I handle her finances and she is distrustful. Okay. I would seriously talk to an attorney and make sure that you've got power of attorney and all of this stuff, and have her declared incompetent. If you have not done that, I would. That is one thing. Lord. When abusers get dementia, they do one of two things that I've seen. They either suddenly become sweet as apple pie, like childlike and kind, which is weird, or their paranoia gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and they get more abusive. It's really weird. It's really weird how dementia works. And I'm not a neuroscience person, but it depends on the way the brain is dying, basically, as to how they are going to react or respond. There's a couple of really good articles on, was it Scientific American? Oh, shoot. I'll see if I can find them and I'll post them onto We Need to Talk on Facebook, because there was an article on how dementia affects patients and how it starts taking things away from them personality-wise, and kind of like an overall, like, what you can expect kind of thing. So that is normal. I would definitely see if you can get her declared incompetent so that there's no issue as to you taking over the finances and helping her deal with it. Because what I've seen in some families, and remember, this is with dysfunctional families, if they were abusive and there's other siblings involved and you're doing the finances and she's distrustful and there's other siblings, she's going to be spouting to the other siblings that you're screwing her over and this, that, and the other thing. So everything needs to be above board. You need to have absolutely crystal clear books. Everything needs to be absolutely transparent so that you're not accused of embezzling or anything else like that. It was an issue that happened in my family and it wasn't happening. So it was, don't get me started. Anyway, the point being is you want everything above board. You want to be able to have receipts. You want to be able to show everything, hey, I'm not taking anything. I'm not skimming off the top. Everything needs to be crystal clear. I would definitely talk to an attorney and ask them about having her declared incompetent so that, you have power of attorney and everything's cool and groovy. The other thing I've seen happen on the flip side is that another abusive sibling will declare the parent incompetent when they're not. And then there's a huge clusterfuck. So again, get an attorney and ask them how to handle this, because you want to make sure that you are absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? Completely filled with integrity, and that nobody can question anything, especially when she dies. So, and especially when your mom is, paranoid to begin with, toxic, and is starting to lose her mind, you definitely want to talk to an attorney. I strongly recommend that. So you want to find an attorney who their sole practice is probate and trusts and, living wills and all of that stuff. So go find somebody that does that. In Arizona, I like Brian Taylor. He's my guy. I send everybody to him. He's awesome. He does the probates and the trusts and the wills and things like that. So he's a really good man. I really love him. I haven't seen him forever. I got to take him out to lunch. Anyway, okay. So I hope that answers the question. Okay. I'm in the middle of a divorce and the hatred and vindictiveness is really stepping up. Not surprising. Why do we become the main enemy of the narc once they realize that we know what's up with them? Because you know what's up with them. Because you see them for what they are, and they are pissed that they cannot control you anymore. That's their bread and butter, is control. They love to control. They love to harm. They love to hurt. They love to, and especially when somebody leaves them, right? Walks out of the family, divorces them, whatever, that is the ultimate loss of control. They can no longer control your every moment, your every thought, your every mood, your every, So yeah, they get really, really nasty because you see them for what they are and you're not putting up with it. And that pisses them off. And they're basically having a 2-year-old temper tantrum. And yes, they are very vindictive, very vindictive. Don't ever underestimate a narcissist when you are divorcing. When you divorce an abuser, listen to me now, believe me later. They are going to be the most vindictive, nasty, evil, stalking, vicious, cruel, manipulating, using the kids as pawns, pieces of shits you will ever see in your life. Trust me on that one, guys. They don't get better with age. They don't get better with divorce. They get worse because they've lost control. And now they need to control you in any way they can. So, for example, in a high conflict divorce, that's what it's called. High conflict divorce. You want an attorney who understands high conflict divorce because they know the games that these assholes play. They do. So for that, Brent Bryson in Mesa, in Arizona, that's my guy. That's who I send people to. Some people love him. Some people hate him. I love him. But anyway, they understand how these assholes think. And you want everything to go through the attorney. Yes. Is it going to be expensive? Yes. But here's the reason why. Because they will send volumes of texts, volumes of emails. They'll try to call you. Don't ever talk to them on the phone. Everything is to be in writing. Everything is to be in writing. Do not allow them to talk to you on the phone because you want to be able to show that they are unstable, number one. And number two, if they do any threats, you want to be able to go, Your Honor, hello, So, yeah, that's just how they do. Why did we become the main enemy? Because we see them for what they are and they can no longer control us. So they're going to try to control us in any way they can. These are the ones that eventually become stalkers, okay? These are the ones that you usually end up having to file an order of protection against. If there are any threats against you or the children or your personal property, you file an order of protection ASAP, okay? Because they're crazy and they do sometimes act on them. So is it just a piece of paper? Yes. But in some cases, the narcissist is such a coward that'll stop them, at least for a little while. In some cases, they're so fucking crazy that they will go ahead and act on it because they're, screw you, I'm bigger than the courts and I know more than the law and this, that, and the other thing. Which is why I encourage everyone, male and female, if you are divorcing one of these monsters, please take a self-defense course. Carry pepper spray on you. Do not be afraid to use it. Get an order of protection if there are any threats whatsoever. Do not put up with this stuff because they're cray-cray. They are completely cray-cray. Yeah, so that's why they become nasty, is because they can't control you. So now they're going to try to control you with the emotional vindictiveness and threats and nastiness and blah, 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 blah. Get an attorney. If you have to, file an order of protection, carry pepper spray, take a self-defense course. I'll tell you what, the thing that made me the happiest was I did Wing Chun Kung Fu. I loved it. And the day I was able to drop a 6'5", 300-pound man was the day I went, bring it, bitches. Do you see where I'm going with that? It really does help with self-confidence. And it helps you feel safer so that if you do get into a grappling situation with one of these assholes, you could possibly end up alive. So yeah, I love self-defense courses. I love martial arts. Yes, there are a lot of narcissists that are drawn to those particular, because I've had this conversation before. So you find one that's not narcissistic and you can find a teacher, a sifu, that is going to teach you how to drop a 6'5", 300-pound man and feel good about it. Do you see where I'm going with that? Or a woman, whatever. So the point being, do you see where I'm going with that? So yeah, so protect yourself. Absolutely, they're crazy. Is hoarding a common trait for narcissists? Yes, it can be. So it's more common, however, in borderline personality disorder. Hold on just a second. Oh, good Christ, hang on. Okay, hoarding comes from trauma. Borderline personality disorder comes from trauma. Narcissism is a part of borderline personality disorder. So somebody can have both narcissism and borderline personality disorder. Hoarding is generally a mistaken way of dealing with abandonment. So when people mistake things for valuable things instead of people. So in other words, if somebody's been abandoned a lot, they'll suddenly putting all their faith in things, okay? And they'll hoard things and it makes them feel safe in a weird way. It's like, well, if I have all this stuff, I'm safe. When in reality, all of this stuff is going to make them very sick, because now they can't walk through the house. Now there's these little paths that they have to go through. There was a couple in California that was actually killed when an earthquake happened because they were hoarders and the piles of stuff fell onto them and smothered them. So hoarding is it happens in narcissists, but it's more common in borderline because it has to do with abandonment, and it has to do with maladaptive thinking, where we switch that people are what's important to things are what's important. And so they think that if they have all of these things, it's going to make them safe, or it's going to make them wealthy, or it's going to make them, not starve, or not, be alone, or whatever. Oftentimes what ends up happening with hoarders is that they lose touch with reality. They refuse to get rid of the stuff, and eventually Adult Protective Services is going to be called, and they're going to have to deal with it then. They freak out when they are at the point where they have to get rid of things because they don't understand things are just things. There's really no value given to them except what they have assigned to it. So my father was a bit of a hoarder, and of course, he was also, and it also depends on how old they are. So what I've noticed is that for those people, the elderly people that were raised during the Depression back in the 1930s, late 1920s, 1929 through 1941 or 2, if they were born and raised during that time period, there's a lot of hoarders in that age range. Why? Because the country was starving. There was not enough food. There were not enough jobs. It was a depression. People were not getting what they needed. There was a lack and scarcity. And so they would hoard stuff. My dad, when he died, Jesus Christ, we had an entire shop filled, I'm not kidding you, floor to ceiling with old tires. And I'm sitting here going, why do we have an entire shop filled with old tires? And then he would save nails, bent, rusty nail. Oh, well, I can use them. I can pound them out and use them again. He did that because he was terrified of not having enough because of his childhood. So hoarding is all based in childhood. Again, if we do not handle that original wound, we're going to have maladaptive behaviors such as hoarding. So hoarding is when the person has had lack and scarcity, usually emotional, sometimes physical, in their childhood. They become an adult, and in their minds, in their inner child mind, if I have stuff, I'm safe. If I have stuff, I'll be okay. If I have stuff, I won't ever need to depend on anybody ever again. It's a maladaptive and mistaken thought. So they assign emotional value, like really emotional value. Like if you try to take a jar of rusted bent nails away from a hoarder, they will become vindictive. They will become nasty. They will become angry and hurtful, and they'll try to hurt you for taking it away. Because to them, that's mom, that's dad. That's the love I didn't get. That was the food I didn't get. That was this that I didn't get. Their mind is not thinking straight. So they have assigned emotional value to things as opposed to people, which is really where the value is, is in people. So is it a trait for narcissists? Yeah, it can be. It's usually, though, I would be willing to bet that there is some borderline going on, some sort of form of abandonment, something, lack and scarcity in the childhood for sure. So yeah, and what can help with that? Well, if the person is just a hoarder, okay, just a hoarder, not a narcissist, just a hoarder, like that isn't enough. If you can get them on anti-anxiety meds designed for specifically hoarding, because there are, and get them into a good psychiatrist, you can get them stabilized, and then the talk therapy will work. Until they are on the stabilizing, until they are on the mood stabilizers and getting the anxiety under control, their thinking is so chaotic. Because remember, with borderline personality disorder, it borders on psychotic thinking. And their thinking about their stuff is psychotic. And they won't let it go. They will continue to fill the house, fill the house, fill the house, fill the house, until the house, literally, the floor collapses, or their immediate family leaves them because they can't take it anymore. So yeah, it's hoarding is nothing to sneeze at. It is a disorder in and of itself. And it takes hard-hitting anti-anxiety meds and talk therapy to get this person to the point. And sometimes it takes an intervention. Oftentimes it takes an intervention where the therapist has to be with them to literally hold them back from grabbing the stuff and going, no, this means something to me. No, this bent nail means something to me. No, this torn piece of clothing means something to me, literally, and talking them through it. So there it is. Okay. My wife is a flying monkey and her dad is the narcissist. She is clueless of the abuse and gaslighting. How do I get her to see the truth about her dad? You don't. You don't. If she is invested and is clueless, she's in denial and she's not going to change. So, so remember, flying monkeys are one of two varieties. They are either minor narcissists themselves or they are uneducated. If they are uneducated, you could try educating her, but given that she's clueless about the abuse and she's gaslighting, who does that? Just asking for a friend, and if that's the case, you need to think about whether you want to stay with this relationship or not, because that sure as heck sounds a little scary. So, all right, there is that. All right. I want all of the questions. Yes. And Chris was just asking me, there's 8 more questions. How many do you want? I'm like, all of them. So, okay, hold on. I think we've got another one. I've noticed that my hoarding narcissist parent used to do the golden child scapegoat roles. Yet once she was allowed to be a full-blown hoarder, everyone became the scapegoat. What's up with that? Because they are very insecure and it's everyone's fault. Their hoarding is everyone's fault. That is absolutely their behavior, is that their hoarding is because you did this. Their hoarding is because you said this. Their hoarding is because you're doing that, or you guns. Okay. That's what happens, because their hoarding becomes their lifeline in their crazy mixed up thinking. So yeah, absolutely. Everybody becomes a scapegoat because everybody wants them to stop hoarding. And therefore that's a threat to their ego, because their ego is telling them this bent nail has all of this emotional impact and value and this and that and the other thing. And meanwhile, everybody was going, it's a bent nail, Dad, let it go. And so their ego is just like, no, you're the problem. You're the reason why I do, They can't ever take responsibility for themselves. That's just the way they are. Hello. So I hope that answered the question. So much for my laryngitis. Yes, I know. But I want to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Okay. Will my narc family finally let me go once I've gone? No. Full contact. Let me just answer that now. No. Will my narc family finally let me go once I've gone full no contact and have removed myself from the family business? No, they won't. They don't ever stop. They're like the Terminator. I'm not kidding you. Hang on. So when we leave, well, it depends. It depends on the type of abuse, and it depends on the type of flying monkeys you're dealing with. It depends on if you were the greatest entertainment in town. If you were the greatest entertainment in town for this whole family, no, they're not going to stop because they want you back. So, however, if you were not the greatest entertainment in town and they have other people they can pick on, then they might let you go for a while. But here's what you have to remember. Narcissists will always circle back around to some form of supply, even if it takes 20 years. So I've had people that have divorced their spouse. They were abusive. They had nothing to do with them. They went no contact. There were no kids involved. Everything's good. They're moving on with their life. And all of a sudden, 20, 25 years later, they get a text, or they get a Facebook request, or they get an Instagram request, or they get, an email or whatever. They will always circle, but when they run out of supply, they will always circle back around to some former supply because they convince themselves that we've forgotten. Oh, it's been 20 years. They'll take me back. That's not a problem. I don't have a problem. They'll take me back. I'm a great guy. I'm a great girl. They'll take me back. No, and no, extra helping of no, and a side of no, and hell no, and no. So they may, for a while, stop if you're really firm with your boundaries and you do not entertain flying monkeys. But eventually, they'll circle back. They do. They always do. They're like a bad penny, or they're like the freaking colds that are going around. They always circle back. You know what I'm saying? So always just be prepared. Just be prepared. It's like when they contact you, you block every single avenue that they can contact you on. You block the email. You block the texting. The phone numbers, you block Instagram, all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all of them. You just Twitch, all of them. You block all of them so that they cannot contact you in any way, shape, or form. Hopefully that'll make them stop. Again, if they don't, and if they're harassing you, file an order of protection. And then you call the police every single time they violate it. So, and sometimes they do stop for a while, and other times they don't. It depends on the level of stalkerishness that they have and what the payoff is for them to continue to try to harass you. So, yeah. So it may stop for a while, but always be prepared. Always be prepared, guys. It's kind of like Harry Potter, constant vigilance. Mad-Eye Moody. Mad-Eye Moody, when he was like constant vigilance, you never know when these guys and gals are gonna try to hook back up with you again and do the Hoover. It could be 20, 25 years later. So just be prepared. And if and when it happens, delete, block, be done, So there it is. All right. Does abuse cause speech issues such as stuttering? Yeah, I think so. It can. Absolutely. Especially if a child is harmed, humiliated, put down, not allowed to talk. One of my clients and I were talking about this yesterday or the day before, and going through the inner child workbook, they discovered that they were having suddenly throat constriction, and they were working on the infant part. And I was like, well, that makes sense. If you were left in your crib and allowed to just cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry, and nobody was coming to take care of your needs, that would make sense that your body would go, hey, hello, you weren't heard. You were crying a lot. This is what's happening. So when you work on the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor, be prepared. There may be some somatic symptoms that pop up, depending on what happened to you when you were a kid. So for her, it was, I'm not being heard. I'm screaming, I'm yelling. Nobody's taking care of me. Nobody's changing my diaper. Do you see where I'm going with that? So be prepared. There may be some somatic symptoms that pop up. So, and that's normal. That's totally normal, guys. So just note it, and bring it into your therapist and work it through. That's the whole point of those workbooks, is for you to get knowledge and, oh, okay, why is my throat constricted? Okay, well, was I crying a lot? Was I not being heard? Were my needs not being met? What's going on? How am I feeling? Journal. Yes, so it could be, stuttering could be, and sometimes it's because of the pressure that's put on us by the crazy abuser. We're afraid to speak. We're afraid to express ourselves. We're afraid to say anything. And so we end up stuttering. Yeah, it could be. It's not always, but it could be. So, something to investigate. Absolutely, something to investigate. As my friend's relationship with his abusive, demented mother becomes worse and worse, he has taken to hoarding and isolating himself. How can I help him? Encourage him to go to therapy. Encourage him to go to therapy. Dealing with an abuser is hard enough on its own. Dealing with an abuser who is now going through dementia, oh my Lord, good Lord and butter. Yeah, you need a support system. So I would strongly recommend getting him into some sort of support system for people who are dealing with family members with dementia, and getting him into a therapist, him or her. I don't know. Oh, it's a him. Yeah. Getting him into a therapist then can help him untangle and unmesh all of the emotions. Because like I said, as the dementia takes the patient, they say things, they do things. Sometimes they're really nasty. Sometimes they're really sweet. It's confusing. It's hard on the person. They need support. Get in with a good therapist. Get in with a good therapist. And if they were abusive, he needs a good trauma therapist. And just a support group for family members that are dealing with dementia is a really good idea, because he needs to know he's not alone. Isolating and hoarding, it's probably because of the inner child stuff. So please get him into a good therapist. Suggest it strongly. Be willing to go with him. If he's afraid to go, be willing to go with him. So, and sometimes people do that. It's the funniest thing. It's like, I'll get an appointment and I'll think that one person is coming in. And it turns out two people are coming in because it's the person and their friend, because they just needed support. So this person who needed support. And that's perfectly okay. And most good therapists will be like, sweet, I'm glad you're here to support them. So there that is. Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions? Yes. Is it normal for narcissists to go into jobs like teaching or in positions of authority? Yes. Oh, Good Lord, yes. Yes, because they love being in an authority position. They love being cops. They love being firemen. They love being doctors. Can I tell you the number of psychiatrists that I don't like them? Anyway, not psychiatrists in general, but the narcissistic ones. It's just like, please remove yourself from this profession. So yes, they are very attracted to positions of power because they're here. Everybody else is here. And so, especially with teaching, oh my God, you guys, when I was going through my master's program, there was one in my master's program. He shall remain nameless because I don't want to be sued. But he was horrible. And he was there because it was a position of power. And he actually said during our practicum, he was stalking around and he was like, I'm just looking for somebody to nail. And he did me. And he screamed at me in front of the client. You bet your sweet bippy I took him before the dean. I was like, hell no. I am not paying this much money for my education for you to do that to me. I didn't put up with that with my father, and I'm sure as fuck not putting it up with it from you. So I'm filing a formal complaint, and if it happens again, I will be filing a harassment suit. He left me alone. Don't fuck with me. I know where you live. So yeah, that's what they do. They go into positions of power because they think that they can pick on people. And he thought he could pick on me because I'm generally a very happy-go-lucky, nice person. Never mistake my niceness and my kindness for weakness. So there it is. Yes, that is exactly what they do. So yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. It's 1:10. I got to stop. If I'm going to have clients this week, I got to save my voice. So let's stop for now. The questions that are on there, John and I will go through and we will write them down, and I'll do a separate one. And we'll answer more of them. I'll do a pre-record and I'll answer the rest of the questions. And sometime this week when my voice is not quite so Lauren Bacall-ish / Catherine Turner-ish. So, okay. So I'm going to call it good for today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys. You guys are wonderful. I love you. Please be good to yourselves. Self-care, self-care, self-care. If you're not doing self-care, I want you to do self-care. That means taking time for yourself, getting in a shower or a bath, going and working out, reading, relaxing, working on yourself, doing the workbooks that I talk about. Please do self-care, guys. This is hard work. This is really hard work. So especially when we're dealing with the death of a narcissist, it's hard work. So do self-care. Okay, guys. Have a great week. Don't forget, if you want to sign up for the cruise, go to mercury.com/shop, and it is on there. Jess Manny is going to be with me. Susanna Quintana is going to be with me. She is also your go-to girl if you are out of the Arizona area. She's the one you can talk to. She's got a lot of good information, and she and I talk all the time. So it's not like she's not getting, what's the word I'm looking for? Collaboration. That's what I'm looking for. So, and coordination. So, all right, there it is. All right, that's it, guys. Have a great day, and I will talk to you hopefully next week when my voice comes back. All right, later. Bye.